The shadows of Ravenswood Mansion. Ravenswood Mansion stood on the outskirts of town, a towering, decaying structure that loomed over the dark woods surrounding it. Once a grand estate, it had been abandoned for nearly a century after the mysterious deaths of the Sinclair family, who had lived there for generations. The townspeople whispered about the curse that plagued the mansion, how each family member met a gruesome end, their spirits trapped within the walls, unable to rest. No one dared to go near Ravenswood, except for the occasional thrill-seeker looking for a scare. But even they never stayed long, haunted by the strange sounds, flickering lights, and the feeling of being watched. The mansion's history was steeped in tragedy, but the details were shrouded in mystery. What really happened to the Sinclairs remained unknown. One cold autumn evening, a group of friends, Ethan, Lily, Noah, and Sarah, decided to investigate Ravenswood Mansion. They had heard the stories, but were skeptical, convinced that the haunting was nothing more than local legend. Ethan, the fearless leader of the group, was determined to uncover the truth. Lily, always up for an adventure, was excited at the prospect of exploring the mansion. Noah, the group's skeptic, believed it would be an opportunity to debunk the myths, and Sarah, though nervous, didn't want to be left out. As they approached the mansion, the sky darkened and the wind howled through the twisted trees. The iron gates, once ornate, were now rusted and broken, barely hanging onto their hinges. Ethan pushed them open, and they creaked loudly, the sound echoing through the empty grounds. The friends stared up at the mansion, its windows dark and broken, the walls covered in vines. It looked like something out of a nightmare. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It's just an old house," Ethan said confidently. "There's nothing to be afraid of." They made their way up the stone steps, and Ethan pushed open the heavy wooden door. It groaned as it swung inward, revealing a grand but decaying foyer. Dust hung in the air, and cobwebs draped every corner. The once beautiful chandeliers were tarnished, their crystals broken and hanging askew. Faded portraits of the Sinclair family lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow the group as they entered. The air inside was cold, much colder than outside, and the friends could see their breath. There was a sense of unease that settled over them, a feeling that they were not alone. The mansion seemed to breathe, creaking and groaning as if alive. They split up to explore, each drawn to different parts of the house. Ethan and Noah headed toward the grand staircase, which led to the upper floors. As they climbed, the floorboards creaked beneath their feet. They reached the second floor, where the bedrooms were located. The hallway was lined with doors, each leading to a room frozen in time. Dusty furniture, tattered drapes, and broken mirrors filled the rooms, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew. Meanwhile, Lily and Sarah explored the ground floor. They entered the parlor, where a grand piano sat in the corner, its keys yellowed and covered in dust. Lily ran her fingers over the keys, playing a few notes. The sound was eerie, echoing through the empty room. Sarah shivered, feeling as if they were being watched. "Let's go upstairs," Lily suggested, eager to see more. They climbed the staircase, meeting up with Ethan and Noah on the second floor. Together, they ventured into one of the bedrooms, the master suite. It was lavish, with a four-poster bed, a large fireplace, and an ornate mirror above the mantel. But something felt wrong. The room was unnaturally cold, and the air was thick with an oppressive energy. As they looked around, Sarah noticed something strange in the mirror. A faint outline of a figure, a woman in a long, flowing gown. Sarah blinked, thinking it was her imagination, but the figure remained, growing clearer. The woman's face was pale, her eyes dark and hollow, and her expression twisted into a mournful smile. Sarah gasped and pointed, but when the others looked, the figure was gone. "You saw that, right?" Sarah whispered, her voice shaking. Ethan nodded, his bravado fading. "Let's keep moving." They left the room, but the feeling of being watched intensified. The air grew heavier, and the temperature dropped further. As they walked down the hallway, they heard faint whispers, indistinct but growing louder. The voices seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The group reached the end of the hall, where a narrow staircase led up to the attic. They hesitated, but Ethan urged them on. The attic was dark, the only light coming from their flashlights. Old trunks and boxes were scattered around, filled with the remnants of the Sinclair family's past. As they explored, they found a journal belonging to Margaret Sinclair, the last matriarch of the family. Lily opened the journal and began to read aloud. The entries were filled with tales of tragedy, illness, madness, and death. Margaret wrote of how her husband had grown obsessed with the occult, conducting dark rituals in the mansion's basement. She described seeing shadowy figures and hearing voices that whispered terrible things. The final entry was scrawled hastily, the handwriting frantic. "They are here. We are cursed. We can never leave." The attic suddenly felt suffocating, the air thick with an unseen presence. The friends felt a chill run down their spines as the whispers grew louder, now forming words, "Leave, leave, you don't belong here." Noah turned to leave, but as he did, the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The shadows in the room began to move, twisting and writhing as if alive. Figures emerged, ghostly apparitions of the Sinclair family, their faces twisted in pain and anger. Margaret stood among them, her eyes filled with sorrow as she pointed accusingly at the group. "We need to get out of here!" Ethan shouted, trying to force the door open, but it wouldn't budge. The spirits closed in, their whispers turning into screams. The friends backed into a corner, terrified as the room grew darker. The temperature dropped to freezing, and they could feel the icy touch of the ghosts as they reached out. Suddenly, there was a loud crash, and the door flew open. The friends bolted, racing down the stairs and out of the mansion. They didn't stop running until they were far away, breathless and shaken. They looked back at Ravenswood, now silent and still, the spirits seemingly content to remain within their cursed home. The friends never spoke of that night again, each haunted by the memories of what they had seen. Ethan moved away, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. Lily stopped exploring abandoned places, her sense of adventure replaced by fear. Noah, the skeptic, could no longer deny the existence of the supernatural, and Sarah, who had seen the ghostly woman in the mirror, was plagued by nightmares. Ravenswood Mansion remains standing, a dark reminder of the past. The locals say the spirits still roam its halls, forever trapped by the curse that binds them. Those who dare to enter find that the mansion is not just haunted, it is alive, feeding on fear and drawing in the curious and the foolish. And once inside, the shadows of Ravenswood never let you leave.